What is up, baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel for another episode of Ryan's Ghost. I am your host, Salbo the Stat Guy. In today's video, I want to continue with discussing run support. If you've seen from my previous videos, I broke down run support for pitchers in the 1970s, the 1980s, and 1990s, and this video is going to cover run support for pitchers during the 2000s, from 2000 to 2009. If we remember back in the 1970s, 25% of all games started by pitchers were complete games. That number dropped down to 15% during the decade of the 1980s. It dropped down to 7.4% in the 1990s, and in the 2000s, it was only 3.6%. So starting pitchers were obviously pitching a lot less complete games, and overall just a lot less innings as well. Bullpens were becoming more the norm, and you had a lot of guys coming in out of the bullpen during games, setup men, and you had your closer. So pitchers weren't exactly going deep into games anymore and weren't exactly putting up innings pitched as far as they had done back during the 1970s. If we look at the starters that had 200 or more starts in those decades, during the 1970s we had 56 starting pitchers that had 200 or more starts. In the 1980s that was 55. During the 1990s it dropped down to 51, but then it kind of shot back up a little bit during the 2000s. We had 64 pitchers who started 200 or more games. And so we did not have as many start 300 games, though. During the 70s, we had 15 pitchers start 300 or more games. During the 80s, that dropped down to only 8 pitchers. But then it rose back up to 11 in the 1990s, and it was actually 10 in the 2000s. So only a drop of 1 from the 1990s. And also run support started to explode as well. I didn't do the tallies on 70s pitchers as far as their run support goes. But during the 1980s, we only had 2 pitchers that had run support of 5 runs or more per start. In the 1990s, that number went from 2 to 13, and it went even higher in the 2000s when it shot up to 24 pitchers now, getting 5 or more runs on average for every start during the entire decade. So there were certain pitchers that loved to go to the mound every 5th day because they knew they were going to get plenty of run support from their offenses. So if we look at the 64 pitchers who started 200 or more games during the 2000s decade, number 1 was Livan Hernandez. He started 332 games from 2000 to 2009. Second was Javi Vasquez. He started 327. Next was Jeff Suppan, 321. Then you had Barry Zito with 320. Jamie Moyer at 315. Greg Maddox had 308 starts. Kevin Millwood, 305. Then you had Mark Burley with 301. Andy Pettitte started 300 games during the 2000s. Tim Hudson had 289 starts. Then you had CeCe Sabathia and John Garland at 288 starts. Next was Tom Glavine with 283. Mike Messina had 282. Randy Johnson, 281. Jared Washburn had 279. Brad Penny had 275. Roy Oswalt had a 271. Derek Lowe had 270. Doug Davis clocked in with 269. Roy Halladay and Kenny Rogers. They were next. Roy Halladay had 267, Kenny Rogers 257, Randy Wolf had 254, Ted Lilly 252, Tim Wakefield 250 along with Kyle Lose. 245 was Bartolo Colon. Jeff Weaver had 245 as well. Then you had Freddie Garcia 241, Carlos Zambrano 238, AJ Burnett 237, Johan Santana had 234, John Lackey had 233, Jason Marquise had 231 along with Steve Traxel. Roger Clemens at 228, Pedro Martinez 227, Matt Morris and Sidney Poundstone and Bronson Arroyo had 226, Josh Beckett had 225, Kurt Schilling, Vicente Padilla, and Woody Williams and Ben Sheets all had 221 starts. Russ Ortiz had 220, Gil Mesh 219, Esteban Loaiza had 217. Joe Pinero had 216, David Wells and Jake Peavy had 215, Brad Radke had 214, along with Aaron Harang. Paul Byrd had 212 starts. Kip Wells had 205, Eric Milton and Odalis Perez had 204. Matt Clement and Mark Mulder 203, Mark Redmond at 201. And then you had Ramon Ortiz, Mike Hampton, Adam Eaton, and Miguel Batista all had 201 starts during the 2000s. So if we look at the first category, the first one is pitchers with the most starts where they received 0, 1, or 2 runs from their offense. And number 1 on the list was Barry Zito, pitching for the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants during the 2000s. He had 97 starts where his team gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Second on the list was Javi Vasquez, he had 93 starts. Livan Hernandez had 90. Greg Maddux had 86. Kevin Millward, 84. Jared Washburn had 84 as well. Mike Messina had 82. Jeff Suppan had 79. Jeff Weaver had 77. And Mark Burley, John Garland, Randy Johnson, Jake Peavy, and Ben Sheets all had 76 starts, where the team gave them 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Now, on the flip side, starters with the fewest starts with 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Number 1 on that list was David Wells. He only had 39 starts, where his teams gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Second was Mark Mulder, who had 40. Eric Milton had 44. Matt Morris had 47. And Vicente Padilla had 48. The next category is winning percentage. So what pitchers had the highest winning percentage, even though they were only getting 0, 1, or 2 runs from their offenses? And got a couple of Hall of Famers on this list. Number 1 was Curt Schilling. Okay, he won 30% of his starts when his teams gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs. So definitely a good instance of a guy basically putting his team on his back and pitching him to victory with very little support. He ended up going 14 wins and 33 losses in those starts during the 2000s. Number 2 on the list was Johan Santana. He won 29% of his starts, where his team gave him very little support. He had 15 wins and 37 losses. Next is Mike Messina. 26% of his he won 26% of his starts with 0, 1, or 2 runs, 17 wins, 48 losses, which was the most for that decade, 17 wins. Next is Roy Oswalt, 25% of his starts he won. He had 15 wins and 44 losses. Next is Pedro Martinez at 25% as well, 13 and 28. John Lackey, 25% as well. He won 12 games and lost 36. Next is Randy Johnson. He won 22% of his starts, 14 wins and 50 losses. Then you had Mark Mulder. He won 22%. Roy Halladay won 21%, and Tim Hudson 21% of his starts as well. He managed to win with his team giving him 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Now, on the flip side, if you look at the lowest winning percentage for teams that gave their starters 0, 1, or 2 runs, number 1 on that list was Mark Burley. He only won 2 games and lost 59 when his teams gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. So you definitely knew that if you didn't give Mark Burley a lot of runs, he wasn't going to really win the game for you, because he wasn't the kind of pitcher that was going to carry his team to victory. Okay, he obviously needed support. Number 2 was Kenny Rogers. Okay, he only won 5% of his starts, where his team gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs. He was 2 wins and 36 losses in 49 games started. Third was Miguel Batista. He won 5% of his starts too. 2 wins, 41 losses in 55 starts. Sidney Ponson, longtime Baltimore Oriole. He only won 5% of his starts as well with 0, 1, or 2 runs. He was 3 wins and 53 losses. And last on the list was Ted Lilly, 5% as well. He won 3 games and lost 56 in his 68 starts with 0, 1, or 2 runs. Now, the starters with the highest percentage of their starts, where their teams gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Number 1 on that list was Jake Peavy, mostly pitching from the San Diego Padres and for the Chicago White Sox. 35% of his starts, his team gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs, so definitely was a hard-luck pitcher as far as getting run support. Number 2, or actually tied for first with Jake Peavy, was Kip Wells, a journeyman who pitched mostly in the National League. He won 35% of his starts. His team gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs. He played for Pittsburgh and some other teams as well. Next was Ben Sheets. He got 0, 1, or 2 runs in 34% of his starts. Then you had journeyman Mark Redmond with 32% of his starts. Odalis Perez, 31%, along with Aaron Harang and Jeff Weaver. Barry Zito got 0, 1, or 2 runs in 30% of his starts, with Jared Washburn 30% as well. And A.J. Burnett, Gil Mesh, and Mike Messina all had 29% of their starts, where their teams only gave them 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Now, if we flip that, pitchers with the lowest percentage of 0, 1, or 2 runs in their starts, so guys who were definitely getting plenty of run support. And number 1 on that list was David Wells, okay, the boomer. He only had 18% of, I believe, his 214 or 215 starts, where his teams gave him 0, 1, or 2 runs. So, pitching for the Yankees and for Toronto and some of his other teams, they definitely gave him plenty of runs to work with. Number 2 was Kenny Rogers, mostly for Texas Rangers. Only 19% of his starts did his team give him 0, 1, or 2 runs. He also pitched for the Yankees for a year or two as well. Next was Tim Hudson and Mark Mulder, 20% of their starts. So the Oakland A's and the Atlanta Braves for Hudson definitely gave him plenty of runs. And Eric Milton and Matt Morris each had only 21% of their starts, where their teams gave them 0, 1, or 2 runs of support. Next is pitchers with the most starts, where their teams gave them 3 to 5 runs of run support. And number 1 on that list was the number 1 overall was Livan Hernandez. He had 136 starts, where his teams gave him between 3 and 5 runs of support. Number 2 on the list was Greg Maddux. He had 130 starts. Next was Jeff Suppan. He had 125. Javi Vasquez was in fourth place with 124. Tim Hudson was next with 122. Then you had CC Sabathia with 121. Jamie Moyer with 120. Kevin Millward had 119. Andy Pettit 116. And John Garland rounded out the top 10 with 113 starts, where his team gave him 3, 4, 5 runs of support. Now, on the opposite side, pitchers with the fewest starts, where their teams gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Number one was Jake Peavy, as we saw in the last category. 66 of his starts, his team gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Ramon Ortiz was second with 70. Then you had Roger Clemens with 73, tied with Jeff Weaver. And Sidney Ponson had 74 starts, where his team gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Now, pitchers with the highest winning percentage of starts, where they got 3 or 4 or 5 runs of support. And number one, no surprise, Pedro Martinez. Okay, he won 81% of his starts, where his team gave him 3, 4, or 5 runs of support. Okay, he was 42 wins and only 10 losses. So if you gave Pedro Martinez at least 3 runs, you pretty much were going to win the game most of the time. Number 2 was Roger Clemens. 72% of his starts he won, where his team gave him 3 or 4 runs of support. 38 wins and only 15 losses. Third was Randy Johnson, 71% winning percentage. He had 50 wins and only 20 losses. Then you had Roy Oswald. He won 71% of his games, 46 wins, 19 losses. Same with Johan Santana, 71% as well. He had 41 wins and only 17 losses. 6 was Roy Halladay, 65% of his games he won, 42 wins, 22 losses. Mark Mulder, 65% as well. He had 41 wins and only 22 losses. Ted Lilly was 8th, 63% of his starts he won, 32 wins and only 19 losses. Next was Mark Burley, 44 wins, 27 losses, 62%. And to round out the top 10, Bartolo Colon, he won 61% of his starts, winning percentage, 40 wins and only 26 losses. Now, the highest overall percentage of starts where a team got 3, 4, or 5 runs of support for their starting pitcher. And number one was kind of a surprise. It was Jason Marquise. Okay, in his starts, his team gave him 3 to 5 runs of support, and 44% of them. That was tied with Kyle Lose. He had 44% as well. Next was Randy Wolf, 43% of his starts. His team gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Kenny Rogers, plenty of run support there, 42%, along with Dallas Perez, CC Sabathia, and Greg Maddux, and Tim Hudson, all 42%. And then Livan Hernandez and Esteban Loaiza, both 41% of their starts. Their teams gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Now, pitchers with the lowest percentage of starts with 3 to 5 runs of support. Number one, Derek Lowe, only 28% of his games did he get 3 to 5 runs of support. Mike Messina at 30%, Jeff Weaver 30% as well, Jake Peavy 31%, and Roger Clemens 32% of his starts. His team gave him 3 to 5 runs of support. Now, the final category, pitchers with the most starts where their team gave them 6 or more runs of support. So these guys were definitely happy to take the hill because they knew they were going to get plenty of help in their offense. And number one on the list was actually Jamie Moyer. Okay, he had 126 of his starts where his teams gave him 6 or more runs of support. So the Seattle Mariners were really scoring a lot of runs for him back in the 2000s. Second on the list was Derek Lowe, who spent a good decade with the Red Sox. They had good offenses back then. He had 124 starts where his team gave him 6 or more runs. Third was Mark Burley with the White Sox, 121 starts. Andy Pettit with the Yankees, 118. Jeff Suppan, that's kind of a surprise, 117 starts with 6 or more runs. Then you had Mike Messina, another Yankee, 114. Barry Zito, 111. Javi Vasquez at 110. Tim Hudson had 109. Livan Hernandez, 106. And Roy Halladay had 106 starts as well, where his team gave him 6 or more runs of support. Now, among those pitchers with 6 or more runs of support, their winning percentage when their teams gave him plenty of runs. And number one on the list was actually Roger Clemens. Okay, he won 98% of his starts where his teams gave him 6 or more runs. So you're basically guaranteed a victory if you gave the Rockets 6 or more runs. And in those starts, he went 64-1 when his team gave him 6 or more runs. So that was pretty impressive. Tied with Roger Clemens was actually Ramon Ortiz, mostly pitching for the California Angels. Okay, he won 98% of his starts as well, where the Angels gave him 6 or more runs. He was 53 wins and only 1 loss. Next is Hall of Famer Mike Messina. He won 97% of his games, 83 wins and only 3 losses. Same with Roy Halladay. He won 86 and only lost 3 for a 97%. And Pedro Martinez as well. He won 97% of his starts, 57 wins and only 2 losses. Next was a surprise. It's Woody Williams. Okay, he won 96% of his starts, where his teams gave him 6 or more runs. He had 43 wins and only 2 losses. Next is Ben Sheets. He won 43 and only lost 2 games for 96%. Jamie Moyer, 95% of his starts he won. We got 6 or more runs, 83 wins, only 4 losses. Then you had Tim Hudson, 95% as well, 79 wins, 4 losses. And then you had 10 pitchers who tied at 94% if their team gave them 6 or more runs. So you have to say, once you got 6 or more runs for those pitchers, they were pretty much very successful and you were pretty much guaranteed a win. Now, pitchers with the highest percentage of starts where their teams gave him 6 or more runs, and number 1 on the list was David Wells. Okay, in 46% of his starts for the decade, his team gave him 6 or more runs. So you had to love if you were David Wells going to the mound. Number 2, actually tied for first with David Wells, was Derek Lowe, 46% of his starts as well. Next, you had Tim Wakefield at 42% with Eric Milton. Clemens and Kurt Schilling and Matt Morris all had 41% of their starts where they got 6 or more runs. And then you had Mike Mussina, Roy Halladay, Jamie Moyer, Mark Burley, Mark Mulder, Russ Ortiz, and Sidney Ponson all had 40% of their starts where their teams gave them 6 or more runs of support. Now, if we look at the opposite of that, pitchers with the most starts where they got 0 runs of support. And number 1 on the list was Javi Vasquez. Okay, he had 28 starts in a decade where his teams basically gave him 0 runs of support. Tied for second was Barry Zito and Kip Wells. They had 21 starts with no runs. Then you had Roger Clemens, Ted Lilly, and Kevin Millwood, all with 20 starts. Jeff Weaver had 19 starts with no runs. And Steve Traxel and Jake Peavy had 18 starts where their teams got no runs of support for them. Now, pitchers with the most starts where they got only 1 run of support. And number 1 on that list was a familiar face in the 1990s, and that's Greg Maddux. Okay, so even in the 2000s, he had 36 starts where his teams only gave him 1 run of support. So he could have had even more than the 355 wins I believe he had already if he actually had a couple of games where they actually could have got at least a little more support for him. Tied with Greg Maddux at 36 was Livan Hernandez. Second was Tom Glavine. He had 35 starts. We only got 1 run, so even teammates, for a long time, Maddux and Glavine, they had some good run with the Braves, but they also had games where they didn't get a whole lot of support either. Next on the list is Barry Zito. He had 34 starts where his team only got him 1 run. Next was Javi Vasquez, Jeff Suppan, and Brad Penny. All had 33 starts where the teams only gave him 1 run. Jared Washburn had 30 starts with 1 run of support. Ben Sheets had 29, and Bartolo Colon and Randy Wolf both had 28 starts where the teams only gave them 1 run of support. Now, pitchers with the most starts with 0 or 1 run of support. Number 1 on the list was Javi Vasquez. He had 61 starts where his teams gave him basically 1 run or less. Barry Zito had 55, Greg Maddux had 52, Jeff Suppan had 48, and Livan Hernandez had 48 as well. Now, if we look at overall run support, so pitchers that had the best run support from 2000 to 2009, number 1 was David Wells. Okay, his teams gave him 5.44 runs of support for every start. So it definitely made his job a lot easier knowing that if I make a mistake or 2 during the game, it should be all right because I'm going to get plenty of run support from my teammates. Number 2 on the list was a surprise, Ramon Ortiz. Okay, he got 5.37 runs of support from mostly the Angels in the 2000s. Next was Andy Pettit, no surprise there, pitcher for the Yankees. And Houston, he got 5.34 runs of support in the 2000s. Next was Kurt Schilling, 5.33 runs of support. Vicente Padilla, 5.3 runs of support. Tim Wakefield, 5.30 runs. Derek Lowe, 5.29. Mike Hampton, 5.23. Freddie Garcia, 5.21. And Josh Beckett rounds out the top 10 with 5.20 runs of support each start on average. Now, if we look on the flip side, pitchers who had the worst run support, and it was actually still pretty decent compared to other decades, but pitchers with the worst run support for the 2000s, number 1 was Ben Sheets, mostly pitching for the Milwaukee Brewers. He got 4.33 runs of support, which, if you saw my 70s video, I mean, guys would have killed back then for 4.33 runs of support, but they obviously got to score a lot less runs in the 70s than they did in the 2000s. But Ben Sheets had the worst support each start during the 2000s. Number 2 on the list was Mark Mulder, 4.35 runs of support. Tied with Steve Traxel and Odalis Perez. They both had 4.35 as well. A.J. Redette, 4.37 runs of support. Greg Maddux was number 6, 4.39. Mark Redmond, 4.42. Aaron Hooray, 4.44. Jake Peavy, 4.46. And Kip Wells rounded out the top 10, 4.46 runs of support as well. So as you can see, run support just kept getting better and better as the the decades progressed. It started off pretty slow in the 70s and started to get bumped up in the 80s, 90s. And so in our next video, we'll take a look at run support in the decade of the 2010, so from 2010 to 2019. That'll be our next video. And so we'll compare and contrast how the run support was getting better or if it was getting worse. But you definitely saw an uptick in offense, from 2000 on. And if you remember 2019, that was the year where they set the all-time major league record for most home runs in a season. They hit like over 5,600 home runs. So you're definitely going to see pitchers getting plenty of run support, and I believe the 2010s as well. So thanks for watching. Please leave a like or a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know who your favorite pitcher was, maybe in the 2000s. Let me know who you think was the hardest luck pitcher in that era as well. Until next time, guys, it's Salbo the Stat Guy. Take it easy.